At the west of the Chiral Valley, something unexplainable is going on. The once barren field is now home to a trash heap of random objects and otherworldly creatures not native to lore. Just what the hell happened here? Luckily, we see a familiar face in Warlick and ask him for the details. But something is wrong with him too. It's not quite our Warlick, although it certainly looks like him, bar the updated character design introduced later. He welcomes us to the Span, a constructed city of illusions and converging timelines. The city we stand in doesn't exist, but was modeled after Tibetalonia, a name familiar to anyone who's played MechQuest. This Warlick is a golem, created as a near replica, mimicking the face, personality and knowledge, but not autonomous or as powerful as the real Warlick. He directs us to the Time Library, where we'll come to understand the nature of the Span and meet the master who created it. Warlick 2 explains that there exists other worlds with similar constants binding them together. A lore, both present and future, similar to our own. A lore with dragons and elemental planes battling for supremacy. And a lore with spaceships and mecha. There's always a Warlick, there's always a hero, and
There's always a lighthouse.
a battle-worn town. We explore the Time Library and see the different timelines for ourselves, including a grim future where chaos wins and the creature beyond the Chaos Gate is released. Understanding that, the master introduces himself. He smirks at us, like an old friend. We don't recall ever having met him before. The master agrees, perhaps in a different time and a different place we'd have met. And depending on our previous adventures, our interaction would reflect that. The master is the corrupted chronomancer Ayadoa from the New Year's event. So that's what became of him. We are immediately on the offense. He's a servant of Drakkath, and a Chaos Lord at that. But Ayadoa explains that he's a different beast altogether from the previous ones that we've met. Not only is he on an entirely different plane of power, being able to freely bend time, but he hasn't succumbed to the infection yet. He plans to train us to defeat him, for that is our destined future, as it has already played out time and time again. Ayadoa himself is beyond time and death, but needs to play his part and correct the course of time as he is needed. It's paradoxical in nature, but just go with it. We are rather untrusting of Ayadoa, but we play along, because it is our duty to slay the Chaos Lords. Training with the other golems, we are ready to enter the Time Void and meet the unending symbol of the universe, the Ouroboros snake Vax the Haas. Helping the snake fend off the chaotic influence and bonding with its kin, we learn the secrets of time walking and come to understand the tragic event that would lead Galanoth to originally slay the eternal dragon of time, thereby creating this current timeline. In a completely separate timeline, one where our hero didn't exist, Sepulture won the initial invasion of Swordhaven and plunged the world into darkness. Galanoth, being the only survivor, sought out the eternal dragon of time. As the sun, the eternal dragon of time is one of many, but in isolation it is the life giver of our world. The very lifeblood that runs through the AE Games' timeline is thanks to this creature. Galanoth knew of their power over time and sought to foolishly reverse it. The omnipotent dragon recognized its fate and let itself be struck down. The dragon knew the timelines would mix and sacrificed itself for a better future. Being an initiate chronomancer ourselves now, we are ready to embark on an odyssey of the recreated greatest battles of the other timelines, so we may learn how the heroes of their worlds overcame their adversaries. Battling through the AdventureQuest timeline, it'll be appropriate to discuss the calendar classes, since it's on theme here. This is a very unique type of class, because they aren't available through in-game means. They are given to players who purchased a real-life calendar poster from AE's online merch store, the Hero Mart. Not only can you get these posters, but many more exclusive items from accompanying paraphernalia. Most coveted though is the merch that gives you these unique classes. Starting in 2011, each year would bring a new calendar with an accompanying Chronomancer class, Chrono Corruptor, Time Killer, Infinity Knight, and many more throughout the years. I even got my own in 2014, that being the Chrono Commander. Most of the Chrono classes are completely busted in terms of power, with the different Chronomancers either being the best at farming, soloing, supporting, tanking or DPS. It is definitely pay to win, but it felt so good getting the calendars back then, and having the iconic cyan and bronze color scheme, oh man. Luckily, the classes aren't lost to time, as they have functional copies available for hero points, which you get from buying items from the Hero Mart in general. They differ visually as to not break the promise of exclusivity. Crafting a frozen claymore to defeat Akrylov, who looks awfully tame compared to later iterations of the Lord of Fire Dragons, we are ready to face the ultimate lesson of the AQ timeline, defeating the first Proto-Chaos Beast, Karnax, the Great Scourge. Continuing on to the Dragon Fable lesson, something is wrong with the constructs Ayadoa had designed. It's different from how he meant to create it. The chaos is beginning to take both a physical and mental toll on him, and he is starting to lose control over his own creations. We explore the cave system that randomly places us in different maps, which was absolutely miserable to play through, might I add, until we learn the tale of Fluffy, the dragon who'd fall into the hands of Sepulture and be turned into one of the most powerful Draco Liches. Defeating the second Proto-Beast, Ayadoa is at his breaking point. He can no longer ignore the whispers and crumbles under the stress. Before buckling, he mumbles that by slaying the Proto-Beasts, we are helping him free his actual Chaos Beasts, but that it is in our best interest to continue. Literally ripping time and space apart, he sends us to the MechQuest lesson. Chaos is now open to freely invade the span, and Drakath wastes no time sending in the Chaos Twins to wreak havoc. The constructs start to form a will of their own. They were always aware of their roles as golems, but now yearn for more than just mimicry. Their memories betray them, giving them an existential crisis. Killing the last Proto-Beast, the Crystal Draconoid, who I honestly know nothing about, we are ready to face the old guard slumbering at the bottom of the deep chaos. He's been watching us in his dreams, and omens of his return has permeated through other story arcs. Cthulhu Achu, an obvious homage of H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu, is here. An intelligent chaos beast no less, much to the dismay of the Chaos Twins. With reality-shifting powers and mind-breaking psychic attacks, we break down its barrier and slay the Great One, returning it to its slumber, meaning that we are finally able to fulfill our duty to our friend. Ayadoa warps reality to teleport us to the manifold of time, with him being the center of it. Warlick 2 explains that the Ayadoa we are about to face is a construct of chaotic powers, and that by destroying it, it will be enough to stop Ayadoa's corruption and save him. This is of course a bold-faced lie, orchestrated by Ayadoa, who knows we would never willingly kill him. The Ayadoa fight is difficult. He has time on his side and increases all the cooldowns of our abilities. He is also able to periodically freeze us in time and nuke us with an astral shift that almost one-shots us. The nuke can be avoided by acquiring the Draconoid of Ours item from the Proto-Beast in the MechQuest lesson. Killing Ayadoa and returning the span to order, we are left with a hollow feeling of sadness for our fallen friend, and the lingering question of the significance of us as a hero. Why are we so special that we have existed in multiple timelines and always seems to be the one getting shit done? Warlick answers us. We aren't quite an elemental champion, nor any great descendant of one. We are actually the... Well, We'll know soon enough, as Idaho echoes from beyond the time stream. This story is insane, and a huge love letter to all the other AE games. The amount of new sprites created for this storyline alone is beyond impressive. We've had some unique Chaos Lords that either rebelled against Nulgath or were revealed to be hidden in plain sight. But having a Chaos Lord help us defeat him before he fully corrupts is so interesting, and gives us more insight into the nature of corruption and how it affects the ones who wield it. I'm feeling S tier on this one. It could easily have been self-indulgent, but this story shows restraint and uses the crossovers integrally to the story that was already established day one as the premise of the game's release. Now, there's no rest for the wicked, especially when the tensions between the factions of evil has reached its boiling point. No longer can Dage and Nulgath coexist. Dage and his undead legion has seen it fit to encroach on Nulgath's reign over the underworld, sending in his troops with the promise of legion tokens. Nulgath made a deal with death to purge the lost souls who wander down there, but he also owns the Oblivion Gate located at the depths of the Purgatory, which connects the underworld to entirely separate worlds, which differ from our connected timeline system. Dage was once an apprentice of Nulgath, but he managed to break out of his contract and keep the powers bestowed upon him. He now seeks to overthrow his master and conquer the underworld for himself. This is a war for the ages, the final one to settle the rivalry between the nation and legion. Are you with the black and blue medieval skeletons, darkcasters and ironclad titans, or with the devilish fiends covered in void, horns and carrying sentient blades? Now, discussing this war, it is paramount to talk about why it happened in the first place. So, to pull back the curtain on the behind the scenes of Artix Entertainment, the first chink in the chain came back when Meltonius changed his name to Nulgath. The official reasoning given, and factually correct one, is that Meltonius still did art outside of AQ Worlds, and the team saw it fit to differentiate his personal work from his work for AE and other companies. They gave him back his name and made Nulgath his alias. While this is true, it is also worth noting that Meltonius at this time was also doing some not safe for work art on the side, some of which included AE characters, which they probably weren't too pleased about, considering the target demographic. This didn't affect his business relationship too much, especially considering that the war between Dage and Nulgath was done in promotion and celebration of a new AE game directed by Meltonius himself, the card-based RPG, Oversoul. The outcome of the war would dictate the story of Oversoul, with the Oblivion Gate being directly tied to the world of Oversoul. In any case, the event was seen as the peak and fall of AQ Worlds by many fans. The war event was held over multiple weeks, with it being done over 3 separate battles, in accordance with the underworld expanding at the beginning of each round. At the entrance to the underworld, Dage was the first to win, pushing the archfiends of the nation out in the barren wasteland of Purgatory. At the Oblivion Gate, Nulgath was able to overpower Dage, winning the second battle, but not before the Oblivion Gate was activated, bringing the war to the world of Oversoul. Inside of there, Nulgath would once again win the final battle, with the help of his trusted generals. Sadly,
the game was rigged from the start.
While Nulgath would be crowned the winner of the war, the story demanded that Nulgath be banished in the Oblivion Gate, so that he may be in the world of Oversoul to actualize its story. With Nulgath gone, Dage would claim the underworld as his new hub area, leaving Nulgath be hidden away into Resinatlan like before. To say that the fan backlash was harsh would be an understatement. This would sour the nation fans' victory, and many would claim it to be the downfall of AQ Worlds. So, what do I think? Yeah, I don't really care. I didn't play back then. But what I do care about was the absolute insanely stacked rare shops. My god, if there was ever a time to be playing and collecting items, it would have been here. Normally, I don't cover the rares released, as it isn't really important to the story, but this was basically the deciding factor of which side of the war you were on. Killing Legion soldiers and archfiends would earn you favors and approvals from their respective masters, which would be traded in with either Legion tokens or Nulgath resources to get once-in-a-lifetime equipment. The nation had absolute classics like the Worshipper of Nulgath, the Grimlord, the Frost Fiend, the Vampire Knight, the Void Sage, the Infernal Fiend, and the original Meltonius armor, while Dage would have his Legion Infantry, Legion Warrior, Legion Blade Master, and Fenrir sets, along with stunning weapons like the Sanguine and Ragnarok, the Scythe of Emptiness and Lost Hope, and of course his very own Paragon armor. My main account has been Legion since day one, but if I were playing back then, the nation would have been too tempting, I won't even lie yo. Many players say that something changed fundamentally after this event, both in terms of story direction and art style. And this claim isn't without merit. Meltonius was a very essential part of directing the game's art style, and with him focusing on Oversoul and leaving room for new artists to fill his role, change was inevitable. Compared to AdventureQuest and Dragon Fable, there was a simplicity to the art of early AQ Worlds, and a visual cohesion that could be molded into any aesthetic. Because of the flat color shading, the clear readability at different levels of zoom, and the internal consistency with most of the art coming from the same artist, there was an inherent expectation of what the game should look like from the player's point of view, be that unconsciously observed or not. Because the game didn't have a strict style guide and just followed the rule of cool, you'd clearly be able to see which artists created which items. Just comparing the different types of items released between the decades, it does look really jarring. But there is an argument to be made for this just being the natural evolution of the game's art style. Without this change, the game would have stagnated. And I, along with Meltonius himself, agrees, full stop. Every year of the game has had iconic all-time classic designs and absolute rubbish. There will always be players who don't know how to make good-looking fashion sets with the many different styles that you are given. Just choose to wear the style which you enjoy, and try to appreciate when something looks good, even if you wouldn't use it yourself. Once again, it's time to celebrate. This time the 4th AQ Worlds birthday, which would also coincide with the 10th anniversary of Arctic's entertainment as a whole. This event would be smaller story-wise, but would be a multi-game crossover. This event is no longer available in virtually any fashion, so I'll do my best to paraphrase. The story of this event technically already began during the April Fool's event of the same year, when it was announced that AE had been bought out by Evil Corp, the evil mega corporation. Immediately, they began plastering their advertisements all over Battlelawn and the newly released gear. This only lasted a week because Cicero took back control of the servers because he was hiding in a coffee machine. Preparing to celebrate the birthday, it is revealed that Chairman Platinum had planted a backdoor access and took back control of not only AQ Worlds, but all AE games. As revenge for last time, he threatens to shut down all the games forever. It is up to us to battle the infected evil monsters in all the games to take down Charmaine Platinum before he triggers the game genocide.
Operation Gameicide.
There wasn't really any quest lines in this event, but Battlelawn would get quite the evil makeover, along with the new hub that would show the war progress in all the games. Upon completion of a progress bar, a new passageway would unlock, culminating in a fight with the evil mech dragon. With the chairman dethroned, we are free to celebrate, and because of our valiant efforts, we get invited to the secret underground bunker, a depiction of the real-life building where all the game servers, office spaces, and workstations for artists and coders are stored. We get to see testimonials from all the developers and how they came to work for AE, along with the ultimate power source of the servers that Chairman Platinum threatened to destroy, the server hamster. Real funny AE. Very humorous indeed, fix your fucking servers. This event had a ton of promotional materials associated with it, and was unique for being the first event to cross over with other games. All in all, a great release in the pantheon of birthday events. Next up, we take a break from the Chaos Saga to explore a member-exclusive storyline. Welcome to King Altion's Royal Skyguard. This adventure starts at the anchored ship of the Fearless, the warship and family heirloom belonging to Captain Stratus. Stratus and his brothers are all members of the Skyguard, and they patrol the skies from airborne threats, such as the previous flying Draco Ledge Fortress. Nowadays, the real threat is the sky pirates that terrorize from above. The pirate general Gladius has currently hijacked the Fearless from Stratus, and we need to help him fend off the goons and take back control. Clogging up the machinery to cut off the power and defeating the dragon reinforcements, we kick Gladius off the ship and fly towards the Skyguard harbor. Stratus, impressed with our abilities, wishes for us to stay and help with the current increase of pirate activity. We will be accommodated and gain full access to the harbor's facilities, along with a ranked position among the Skyguard. Our first order of business is to stand guard at the graduation of the new recruits, chief among them being Captain Stratus' own assistant, Invidia. Boarding the ship to the academy, we watch a cutscene of a familiar-looking shadow-clad figure and a woman known as the Dreamweaver. They command a small rebellion of excommunicated Skyguard members. The shadowy figure has apparently spoken with Drakarth, promising him that he'll be rewarded if he spreads his influence of chaos and gets revenge on the Skyguard. Their plan is to infiltrate the ranks and ruin their defenses from the inside. Back at the academy, while Stratus is giving his speech, the Sky Pirates suddenly attack, led by the nightmarish Inbunche creature. Driving the invaders away, Stratus vows to start pushing their offense towards the Sky Pirates. Investigating their presence on Law, we land at the small town of Anders Loss in the Badlands, which has been overrun by Dravia pirates. The city is empty, except for an old granny. This is the Dreamweaver in disguise, and she has orchestrated the attack to divert our attention so her master can sneak into the Skyguard and gather information. Being stalled for time, Stratus eventually arrives himself and gets introduced to the old granny, who immediately puts him under a dream spell before vanishing. In this dream world, he relives his most traumatic memories, one of which being of a figure pushing his sister off a cliff to her untimely demise. Unable to save her, even in his dream, he wakes up in a sweat. He's been unconscious for 2 days, and not only him, multiple other members of the Skyguard suffer from the same nightmare-ridden comas. While waiting for Stratus to awaken, we sort out the Royal Mages, who has given us Dream Drought, a concoction that will allow us to access the Twilight Threshold, an ethereal nexus where we can battle the root of this plague of dreams. We arrive at the Dream Maze, which has an interesting progression path. Instead of questing, we have to explore the maze and collect 4 dream orbs that will unlock the way forward. The orbs are attained from battling enemies, solving puzzles, and collecting shards scattered through the map. This area even features flavorful secret NPCs and bosses that aren't required to progress. Neat. Alright, you know the drill by now. So while we look for the orbs, let's go off topic. I'm beginning to run out of thematic inclusions, so for this one, I'll just pick something that I couldn't fit in anywhere else. Can I has a mod was a popular meme phrase derived from dumb kids asking the staff if they could become moderators of the game, even though they lacked basic communication skills. But eventually, it became a real possibility. You can has mod. Introducing the Can I Has Mod contest, and by that they mean you get the chance to request something from the staff, along with a temporary golden player name to indicate your status. The winner was decided by raffle, and this something reward could be anything within reason, and we would see many different things be added with these contests. Internally, the team had a secret list of extra crazy requests that they would be willing to grant, so the more creative the request, the better. Logging in and buying the golden cheeseburger item you may be the one to have your dreams come true. The first winner of this contest was A Kids, who wished for a free player pet based on Billy the Kid. Yeah, kinda underwhelming, but I'm not judging here. His request was granted, and every player who had the cheeseburger in their inventory would get the pet as well. Quick addendum. While editing, I found out that I forgot an important detail about the first contest winner. Or should I say, winners. Apparently, A-Kids didn't answer immediately, so they actually found another winner. But then they got into contact with him, and both players got to make their wish. The second player was Fallen Paladin. They wished for the Undead Legend armor to be made available for everyone. The team couldn't invalidate the hard work of other players, so they compromised and made a recolor of it. Oh, and also A-Kids apparently got 1 million adventure coins, so there's that. Next time the contest would be held, a much more exciting item would be created. The player, Vader Darkseid, didn't even know what he had signed up for when he won, but after thinking it over for a few days and chatting with the developers, he created something truly awesome. The Darkseid class. The Darkseid class was designed to help players farm more efficiently, with style. Being the second battle pit class ever, and being able to attack up to 4 enemies with the auto attack, this was an awesome, well thought out choice. Third time, an Australian girl named Hersa Herring won, who asked for Australia Day to be celebrated with an NPC selling Australian gear. And so, Mick Dundoo appeared in Battle-On. Yes, selling real knives, crocodile carpets, and no less than the entire opera house. The final contest winner of the original incarnation of the contest was Knave 1, who wished to slay an undead god. The AQ Worlds team granted the wish, and some more, because the idea qualified for their secret list. He became immortalized as King Altian's royal undead slayer, and also the quest giver for his own mini-release, where we traveled to the underworld to defeat the Banished One. The golden cheeseburger would transform into the Infectadorium armor, a 3-for-1 deal with a single wish. Brilliant. This would sadly be the end of the raffle contests. A few art and writing competitions were held that ended up spawning their own personalized items, but it was never replicated to this degree of excitement again. Collecting the orbs and battling the Nightmare Lieutenant responsible, we escape the dream and commence our offense against the pirates. At the Chaos Gate, we see the shadow-clad figure concur with Drakkarth. Speaking in tongues, he rants about Stratus coming after him and that he will need the power to become a Chaos Lord. Drakkarth assures him that if he can bring down the Skyguard, the maelstrom of chaos will be at his fingertips. With Stratus still out of commission, we discuss our next plan of action at the Department of Strategy. We convince the crew to start an all-out assault on any known pirate base, but while moving out, we see a fleet of pirate ships commence a carpet bombing of the land beneath. They even begin invading the Skyguard ships, but this is to our advantage. With brute force, we uncover their secret hideout from map pieces carried by the pirate crew. Interrogating a corrupted pirate, they accuse Stratus of being the master behind their assault, which seemed kinda obvious when they had the same silhouette. Stratus feigns ignorance, but is carried away to jail. Nvidia smirks and thinks, now is the time. Clearly, there's more going on here. Invading the Sky Pirate base, we battle the hulking mass of corruption and uncover the meeting room, only to find Stratus? He should be in prison right now, so how could he be here? Nvidia reveals that she is the Dreamweaver in disguise. The person before us is not Stratus, but Exos, one of Stratus's many brothers. Exos lived his life in a paranoid haze, so to speak, seeking any power to protect him from his own anxiety. The Dreamweaver explains that she is involuntarily helping Exos because he has her grandchildren as hostages. Apparently, being on our side, she seizes the opportunity to teleport us back to the base before Exos has a chance to counterattack. Back at Skyguard, we release Stratos from his cell and explain the situation. Both disappointed in us and furious at the return of his brother, he sets off on a revenge quest that would break the Skyguard code and make him an outlaw. With Stratos going rogue and us traveling to high command to do damage control, the Dreamweaver is without range to exact her true plan, because her loyalty actually lies purely with Drakkarth. Using her own grandchildren to manipulate us, she is the one using Exos, outing him to build trust. The Dreamweaver's next goal is to completely break Exos' mind. In his dreams, she conjures an illusion to make Exos think that everyone is a traitor, and to view us as the only trustworthy person. The Dreamweaver sends us to Exos' hideout in the skies, with the guise of us trying to build trust with him, so that he may be captured. Doing Exos' bidding, we collect monster parts for him. Being on the verge of insanity, Exos believes himself to be a Chaos Lord and wants to summon his Chaos Beast to prove it. Conjuring an amalgam of limbs and organs, yeah, we should probably put it out of his misery as soon as possible. Exos, seeing his creation die, gets so overwhelmed that he unleashes a chaotic burst of magic that knocks him out. This was all the Dreamweaver's design. Drakkarth gathers Exos, and as he awakens, he lashes out at him in fear. Drakkarth loves his chaotic nature, and rewards him for doing so well by imbuing him with a portion of his power. He may not be a Chaos Lord in title, but he will be the first worthy of the title of Chaos Knight. With his third eye opened, he can now see clearly. Through the madness and paranoia, he has found power. He sets off to face his brother. Tracking down Stratos, we arrive at the Chaos Guard, where Exos is located. We see Exos' twisted machinations, believing himself to be the new Drakkarth and creating a distorted location that doesn't spatially make sense and can teleport you to a random location. Stratos finds new resolve, and we battle alongside him. The Exos fight has the gimmick of applying a huge attack that is split among every player, making him extremely difficult to solo. After the attack, Exos will buff himself and the player by increasing our damage, but also the cost of our mana. After the battle, Stratos mourns Exos, giving him his glasses. He should have worn goggles. Maybe he would have seen what was happening to him more clearly. We return to Skyguard as Drakkarth and the Dreamweaver discuss the next course of action. Being disappointed in the result, the Dreamweaver pleads to have another chance at causing true chaos. Drakkarth says that Exos' nature was what caused the chaos, not the Dreamweaver. He dismisses her, as she can't handle the role of being his servant. Back at the academy, Stratos gets excommunicated for breaking code by using his airship for personal gain. But his crew, staying loyal and seeing how he saved the Skyguard by defeating his brother, defects with him. He takes control of the Fearless and plans to start a new air navy, one that won't be so easily influenced by rules and regulations. Another small victory for anarchy. So, that was Skyguard. Member exclusive storyline, might I add. But is it really worthy of that moniker? Sure. It isn't officially a part of the Chaos Saga, but it definitely builds on the themes and gives a new perspective of a person suffering from a stand-in version of a mental illness, desperately seeking chaos as a form of medication and power to feel as if they have control. It's interesting and couples well with the family drama and deception around every corner. The Skyguard also just has a cool aesthetic that is really well realized with its hub area. The presentation did falter from time to time in cutscenes, with music not getting looped probably and character sprites being a bit stretched out. It being member exclusive sucks for consumerism, but I'm indifferent about it personally, so I'll leave it at a B tier. I enjoyed my time. Talking so much about the main storyline, I've neglected a ton of the smaller seasonal event releases. So I think it'll do good to go through a typical year and talk quickly about all the noteworthy events, starting at New Year's. New Year's focuses on chronomancy related events, like the one with Iodoa, but also astrology-based events, often revolving around the sun and moon needing to be in balance. Later in the month of January, the Akiba New Year is also celebrated, decorating the yokai map and expanding it with new areas depending on what Chinese zodiac is associated with the current year. Heroes Heart Day in February is the stand-in for Valentine's. The events are mostly directed by Beline, the public relations manager and writer, might I add, of most of the Chaos Saga. Her pink aesthetic created some cute love story events, but also some major lore important revelations, like the first appearance of the Underworld, or having a tournament to decide who'll marry Altion's heirs. Good Luck Day is the replacement for St. Patrick's Day, having the Sneevils take the roles of the leprechauns, and running a carnival with minigames that let you earn tickets to buy the mean and green gear, along with the seasonal leprechaun class. April Fools transforms Battle-On or something fundamental about the game for a few days to prank the players, whether it be every player gaining a fake moderator status or Nicolas Cage's face replacing every NPC. Afterwards, Easter is celebrated with the Grenwalk creature invading Greengard Forest and Battle-On hiding Easter eggs all over. Released shortly after is Earth Day, having a fun little Captain Planet parody to spread awareness for environmental pollution. In between almost all the months, we also see staff birthdays, sometimes with releases themed around their in-game avatar like Dage, Nulgath or Beline, be that releases directed by them or a backstory for their character, but most of the staff just have a shop of rare items instead. Also released sporadically through the year, we have the Friday the 13th event. There's not really a set theme for these type of events, besides featuring the musical guest Voltaire, who is a frequent collaborator. Therefore, it is often combined with other closely related events to create a horrific take on that release. We've got the tropical Skull Punch Island, the horror movie themed maps with haunted houses and campfire stories turned eldritch nightmare scenarios. Fever dreams turned reality and gothic flaming unicorns battling mechas. The random release theming along with the marketable mascot Deddy, the undead teddy bear, and his many incarnations should give something for any player to enjoy. Speaking of pirates, Talk Like a Pirate Day offers just that in spades. With seafaring adventures and pirate gear galore, you will be able to get the extremely popular Naval Commander type of armor. This item has roots tracing back to the alpha days of the game, in the form of the Alpha Pirate. Fun fact, due to an error by Captain Rhubarb, one of the coders for AQW Worlds, he would accidentally change every player's name to his own, needing to restart the whole game, deleting every character. The Alpha Pirate was given to those early testers as an apology. Being a good looking armor and being a status symbol for veterans, it would get remade in new variations each year during this seasonal event. Halloween approaches as Mugloween in October, inviting us to Mistcroft to join Saphiria and the Cauldron Sisters. You'll find horror media inspired gear, along with scary monsters and super creeps. So put on your spookiest attire and collect candy corn to collect the seasonal Pumpkin Lord class. Thanksgiving turns into Harvest Day, hosted by the troll Oishi, making us battle the Turdraken for her to prepare the best meal ever. Yeah, not much more to say about this one. Afterwards, we have the fashion players' most anticipated day, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, having iconic rare items be transformed into monochromatic and LED lit versions. You call it lazy, I call it
New opportunity!
Finally, Frostvale celebrates the Christmas season, with gifts transforming into equipment and Santa Claus inspired claw suits, along with wintry landscapes, killer snowmen, and a snow-covered Battle-On. During this event, something very special was released that I want to explore fully. In 2012, the Mayan calendar was projected to end, with many people speculating that it was somehow a prediction to a world-ending event. The AE team ran with that idea, and for the longest time their design notes included a countdown to quote-unquote just another day, being the end of the year. As it turned out, nothing happened. It was truly just another day, same as usual. But what wasn't another day was the 12-12-12 event. Released on the 12th of December 2012, the Lore Masters find an ancient text scheduling the arrival of an ice comet holding the massive serpent beast Quetzal, elemental champion of ice. The arrival of the comet only occurs every 2600 years, and the last time the glacial warlord known as Kissaroth, the World Ender, tried to release Quetzal to let Lore be consumed by the ice plane. But Elim, an ancient hero of Lore, valiantly sacrificed himself to stop him. Kissaroth was contacted by a chronocorruptor and was frozen in time to be de-thawed at the next arrival of the comet, which is today. Being recruited by the chronomancer Aethon, we confront Kissaroth, but are quickly overpowered by the sheer raw power. Attracting the comet, the time for impact is nigh, and we are quickly thrown to the wayside as Kissaroth prepares to make contact. We can't stop him now, so our only hope is to travel to the lowest level of the Deep Frost and recover a blade once forged in ancient time, made of Quetzal's own scales, the Sword of Hope. As we recover the blade, Quetzal lands and ushers in a new ice age. The blade should be able to kill Quetzal, but it will only be effective on a severely weakened spot, so the heroes of Lore would have to gather resources in order to launch a fiery assault until Quetzal's power was weakened enough. The serpent falls to the ground, but as we are about to plunge the blade, Kissaroth appears and takes the Sword of Hope by force. Enraged by the turn of events and how Quetzal was so easily stopped, he takes it upon himself to finish off the useless beast, snapping the sword in the process. Kissaroth wanders off, unsure of what to do now, but we can't just let him go when he still has ambitions to end the world. So we track him down at his Fortress of Solitude in the Ice Rise Keep and confront him, hope alone being our only weapon. We manage to cut off one of his horns, but we are just not able to get the upper hand. Even with no elemental powers to speak of, Kissaroth is just on a whole other level of power, coming from the ancient times of Lore. Aethon sees no other way to win except for him to use up all of his powers to freeze Kissaroth in time once again, killing Aethon in the process. Peering over a cliff in mournful loneliness, we stand with the broken Sword of Hope. Was this really the only way? Maybe if we were just a little bit stronger, we could have saved him. Being visited by the spirit of Frostville, we are assured that the hope and faith we had in Aethon gave him the courage to make the sacrifice, and if it wasn't for our hope, many more would have died. Engraving a rock and plunging the sword down it, we leave a grave for the fallen chronomancer. Hope never dies, and neither does the world. What a great story for everyone who was scared that some supernatural force might end the world back in 2012, including me. I thought it was very tasteful and easily one of the best seasonal events the game had received, clearly having been planned out in advance and receiving much more development time. S tier. Back on track to the main story, we get to see the conclusion to a long unresolved plot thread. Escaping the Onslaught Tower through a rift created by the Chaos Twins, Lionfang finds himself in front of Drakkath. He is vehemently against Chaos, considering it to be just as evil as the Shadow Scythe, but Drakkath assures him that Chaos is beyond good and evil, and he sees Lionfang's true potential, declaring him to be the next Lord of Chaos. Lionfang is conflicted, but ultimately chooses to accept the role of Chaos Lord, but vowing to destroy Drakkath when he has dealt with the Shadow Scythe once and for all. Drakkath expects nothing less from a servant of Chaos. Months pass where Lionfang is believed to be dead, but as time catches up with our own adventures, he returns. At the Dark Blood city of Falgard in the Thunderforge region, the same people that he once defiled the tombs of, will now feel his unprecedented prejudice. With plans of ending their whole race in search of their treasures to battle chaos, he invades their most heavily guarded Dreadwatch. With news of Lionfang's return, now a Chaos Lord, we enter the city and find Madra, the commander of the Dreadwatch. She hates humans, only having been exposed to the horrors of people like Lionfang. So we prove to her that we mean no harm and want to help her defeat Lionfang. Arming the city, battling the corrupted Onslaught Knights, and finding the activation rune for the Primarch's lair, who guards the secret Lionfang was searching for. We battle the corrupted Primarch to free him from the grip of chaos, but being too late, the Darkblood Primarch turns to stone as chaos takes root, but not before informing us of the Tears of the Mother, the sacred relic that has the power to expunge chaos. The last known tears are stored in the Death Pits, guarded by Protector Nulgath. As he turns to stone, Madra is appointed the new Primarch. Wishing no sympathy, she commands us to pursue the man responsible. Lionfang arrives at the Death Pits first and battles Nulgath, who nearly overpowers him. But exposing Nulgath to a maddening assault on the senses caused by his whip, Lionfang ultimately kills him. Beyond death, Nulgath appears in front of us as a ghost. Being duty-bound by his amulet, Nulgath explains that the Tears of the Mother are the last tears shed by the Queen of Monsters as she threw away her humanity. The Queen is said to be the creator of the Darkblood people and is revered as a god for that reason. The tears can only remove chaos that has taken root in a being, and not inherently destroy beings made of chaos, meaning it won't have any effect on Nulgath, being the elemental champion. As we descend into the pits and crack the bones of the undead Darkblood swarming us, we arrive at the bottom, but too late to stop Lionfang from taking the tears. We try to warn him of their ineffectiveness, but he won't listen. Luckily, what Lionfang took was a decorated distraction to trick any intruders. The real tears are hidden under a rock in a small unassuming vial. Nulgath grants us the freedom to use the tears as we please, and we of course decide that Altion will be the best person to use the tears on, because, of course, good thing they thought of that. Having him back from the brink of death would strengthen the alliance, but as we arrive in Swordhaven Castle and present the cure, Altion refuses. He knows of the tears' capabilities, but assures us that the tears are better spent on defeating Lionfang. With one cure having been found, perhaps there is time to find another. Sound logic. We obey his command and head for the Venom Vaults, Lionfang's stolen lair. Meeting up with Swordhaven's greatest scout, Sir Valence, he informs us of the growing powers of Lionfang's animal companion, now having been reshapen by chaos into a manticore, functioning as his chaos beast. The deadly poison of the manticore is seeping through the flowing water. We concoct a cleansing potion that will purify the water to become an antidote, giving us a way to battle the beast without being affected by its deadly venom, translating to the mechanic of using the water to remove the escalating damage over time. This isn't really a challenge, because the boss is very weak. But what if it wasn't so easy? What if it was actually ultra hard? That's what the AE team had been thinking. Having these fun mechanics go to waste on soloable bosses wasn't satisfying. So since the Skyguard Saga, they've been creating ultra versions of the main story bosses. Take Tibicenas as an example, with increased health, attack speed, an added freeze attack, and removing the mechanic of him not being able to kill us with more than 1 HP creates a much harder fight. This version also gives unique drops, including the Efreet and Zoom armor sets, and Zoom's Dragon Bow. Having exclusive rewards and the need for coordination would be the backbone of ultra bosses to come, with some even being required to be defeated for difficult in-game grinds, making player cooperation more important instead of just mindlessly grinding, which is definitely a welcome change. Defeating the Manticore and angering Lionfang, he attacks us, but we throw the real Tears of the Mother at him, only for him to catch it. Luckily, Surveillance is there to crack the bottle by firing an arrow at it. Or not. Lionfang recognizes that these must be the real Tears and thanks us, declaring that we've saved his life, now being able to face Drakkarth without fear. He is honor-bound to spare us and promptly leaves. We apparently planned for this and casted a tracking rune on the Tears, hoping for Lionfang to lead us straight to Drakkarth. Traveling up Thunderforge Mountain, nearly slipping in the rain, being saved by Madra, we uncover the Storm Temple, a place built from the clouds infused with chaos to form solid ground. Traveling up the temple and busting down walls, we arrive in time to see Lionfang face the champion of chaos. He throws the Tears at Drakkarth, who reels in pain, but he's just fucking with him. Of course it has no effect. The enraged Lionfang blames us. We must have tricked him somehow, and our battle begins. The Chaos Lord Lionfang battle has the gimmick of power shifting. Lionfang can give us a damage over time effect and stun us, increasing his power and decreasing our damage and received healing. Luckily, he rarely uses this move, but in the Ultra battle, however, we are royally screwed. Defeating him, Drakkarth assures Lionfang that those were the real Tears of the Mother, but also that the reason that the Tears can reverse chaos is because the one who reshaped Drakkarth into a champion was none other than the Queen of Monsters herself. She is the one who is imprisoned behind the Chaos Gate and Drakkarth's one true master. As the Tears of the Mother evaporates off Drakkarth into the clouds, a purifying rain starts, melting the solid ground from the Storm Temple, causing Lionfang to lose his powers and for both of us to sink into the clouds. Lionfang falls to his death, cursing us with his final breath as we escape with the help of Madra. We now see her and the Darkbloods in a strange new light. The Queen of Monsters is the god that the Darkbloods pray to, but if only they knew of what horror she wishes to unleash upon the world. This story is really cool, for naturally building off of the first birthday event and bringing back Lionfang, who is a good stand-in for an overzealous practitioner of perceived good values, like the Crusades of the Middle Ages. The hypocrisy of Lionfang makes him a great villain to hate, and the reveal of what is beyond the Chaos Gate was needed as we soon approach the finale. Valgard is also an artistic highlight. J6 really outdid himself with densely cluttered buildings and archways. Unfortunately, I think the enemy variety is terrible. All we fight is just Onslaught Knights, and some of the map navigation is terrible between going back and forth to the quest giver. Having the quest window always visible would have been ideal for this story, like what they did in the Death Pits. So because of that, we have another B tier on our hands. In between the next storyline, Artix himself would craft a very unique release. We have officially been invited to the Vault of Endless Doom by the lovely undead Grimskull, a man who unlives for trolling no less. Along with his assistant Mort, he crafts dungeons for heroes to explore, to search for his prized weapon of ultimate power, the Hero Blade. He'll be commentating on our adventures like a game show host.
My name is Grimskull, and this is my assistant. Mort, stop drinking the explosive poison juice!
Opening the gates, we are introduced to our first dilemma: progress forward or help the damsel in distress. Being the chivalrous hero that we are, we of course see if the damsel has any good rewards for us. And oh boy does she have one. Yup. Being swallowed whole, we add to the tally counter of 4.5 million other lives claimed by the dungeon. This will be the experience from now on, from bottomless pitfalls, suspicious levers that activate spike traps, so many anglerfish, and Grimskull laughing his ass off at every opportunity. We do also see some cool mechanics, like the plant-infected undead that change our size for the duration of the room, the falling floorboards beneath us, the hidden rooms activated by switches. This was a bad use of my time. And the pure insanity of saws, fire and acid on every other screen. The dungeon reaches a climax when murals on the wall depict a hulking figure known as Ragscore. Ragscore cannot be killed by swords. Ragscore cannot be hurt by magic. Ragscore is immune to all the elements. And Ragscore has never known defeat. We're in for quite the challenge as we cautiously proceed to Ragscore's room. Good thing Grimskull is a massive idiot.
Why is Ragscore dead? When is the last time Ragscore has been fed? 10 years?
With the way cleared, we can now farm for the Hero Blade. Or, if we are feeling more evil aligned, the Grim Blade. Both blades will talk to you if you click on it, and can gradually be upgraded as we level up. Quite the unique swords. But this isn't the end of the dungeon. Looping back around to the entrance, exiting through an unassuming bookshelf, we try to open the one on the other side of the room, only to find the hardest boss in the game on release. Binky, the man-eating unicorn. It has every ability from all the bosses, along with a shit ton of HP and a damage output like a wrecking ball. For the efforts of slaying him, you can claim his severed head as a weapon. Not only that, but there's also a whole second dungeon underneath the first one, which is much more difficult and houses a reanimated Ragscore which rivals Binky in terms of difficulty. What an insane amount of effort for a one-off release, but these are the most memorable types of adventures in my opinion. This wasn't the only release around this time that would have us gather a legendary blade. At the museum, run by Valencia, she asked us to gather the pieces to build the Blade of Awe, which originates from AdventureQuest and once belonged to King Arthur. To gather the pieces and reforge the blade, we'll need to battle a specific category of enemy, which has the small chance of dropping a piece. The stone writ from dragons, the handle from elementals, the hilt from the undead, the blade from any of the chaos beasts, and finally the runes from any of the chaos lords. This sounds easy until you realize what the drop rate is. Starting with the stone writ at 10%, we plummet down to an estimated 0.1% drop chance for the runes on the initial release at least. So after an estimated 1000 Asterion kills, you can claim the blade, and with it, the exclusive Awe enchantments. These hold various effects, like bonus critical damage, health and mana steal on hit, or power word die, which deals almost 1 million damage 0.3% of the time when you land an auto attack. So it is definitely worth forging the blade for these effects alone. They would also later introduce the Armor of Awe, which had more insane requirements, but that was well after the Chaos Saga concluded. As we wait for Drakar's next move, he himself is unsure of how to terrorize Lore next, and in a moment of indecision, someone else intervenes. The Mirror World's Drakarth switches places with him and jets off towards us. He informs us that there's a great disturbance in the balance of the two realms, and that we might be to blame for it being the unique factor between the worlds. Returning to Battle Off, we converse with the mirrored Warlick and Cicero to build a device that can isolate our essence and find a suitable source of power that might be able to act as our counterbalance. We lock in on a weak signal at the heart of Brightfall, home to Gravelyn the Good, leader of the Light Side. We find her in the middle of fending off the forces of Altian the Imbalanced and his Painadins. Helping her, we find the signal embedded in the rock at the center of the fortress. Inside, an egg, a dragon egg no less, which seems to distort space around it. Why would this, of all things, suffice as a suitable balancing force to us? Before being able to finish that thought, the Chaos Twins appear. Drakarth knew we were planning something and planned to swap out his twins with the mirror ones in order to steal the egg. Once it travels to the regular world, Nulgath will be able to block us from returning. We have to stop them before they can open a clean rift, and the most likely place for them to do that is in the overworld, ruled by Dage the Good. With his Legion of Light, he frees the souls of enslaved undead, but he is currently under siege. The twins are planning to meet up with Mirror Altion, but we arrive too late, as Altion is already in possession of the egg and has no qualms about breaking it if he can't hatch and take control of the unborn creature. Undead Artix stands in our way again, and has one nasty health pool, and also has the 0.5% chance to drop a token that can be used to make the Shadow Reaper of Doom. 12-year-old me had quite the patience. Defeating Artix, and with Altion being held at the mercy of Gravelin, we are still too late to take the egg, as the twins snatch it once again. But Mirror Nulgath sneaks up on the evil Xing and restores balance by switching her to her rightful place. Shang manages to open a rift and chuck the egg, leaving the two Nulgaths to discuss a hostage exchange, which he obliges to. Securing our way home, at the cost of the twins still being a threat, Nulgath isn't worried. With the egg already having been bound to us, it'll always be a risk for us to cross over again, since the egg is defenseless on either side. The twins are still disappointed, but Nulgath assures them that the time to awaken their beast is nigh. Now, the Mirror Realm is great, with a ton of cool role reversal ideas, but I think it started a trend of creating alternate versions and palette swaps of existing gear, which has been taken to the extreme in some cases. Let's look at the most egregious example, the Naval Commander. With each year passing, multiple new variants would be made. But when I say variant, what do I mean? I mean a Legion variant, a Nation variant, Chaos, Black Friday, Mirror Realm, Pink, Cyber, Chrono, and so many more. The Naval Commander is the most remade item, but this also happens to other iconic weapons. Artix's Blinding Light of Destiny, Sepulture's Doomblade, Dage's Callid Bulk, the Phoenix Blade and the Paladin Armor, among many other with fewer versions. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does highlight one of the main things keeping players coming back, which isn't the story or the gameplay, but item collecting. AQW Worlds is essentially a really advanced dress-up game, and that might sound like an insult if it weren't one of the best goddamn fashion games since the likes of Elden Ring and Monster Hunter. It's no wonder so many people AFK in Yulgar just to show off their cool gear, and nothing is cooler than rarity or how hard an item is to get, which is why we see items requiring insane grinds and thousands of equipment pieces being unobtainable, because people like feeling individualized. And what could be more individual than knowing that you're one of a set number of people owning an item? Introducing the limited quantity shops, shorthanded as LQS. At the release of the Sansi storyline, a strange merchant appeared in Babylon, selling black market wares, with items limited to be bought by 100 players. This created some all-time classic equipment, but was probably very buggy considering that they expanded on the concept to be its own website. I remember refreshing the page like a fiend trying to get these sets, like it was an out-of-stock PS5. Exciting times, but definitely capitalizing on the fear of missing out. Some time passes and we are abruptly swapped back into the Mirror Realm from the safety of Yulgar's Inn. Mirror Nulgath can feel the Chaos Twins trying to summon their beast, and so we will need to focus our attention on making a spell that can override the equal powers of the two Nulgaths, so that they might switch one of the twins out again and stop them. Traveling to the Red Death Swamp, we create a mirror with the help of Bardolph. It has the ability to swap out the spirits between two counterparts. With this, Shang will be able to take over the evil Shang's body and stop them from summoning the beast. But this is exactly what Nulgath wants. The ritual process is a success, and not only is the Chaos Beast summoned, but the balance of the spirits along with the imbalance of the bodies creates a gravitational force that fuses the twins together into the Chaos Lord Qiang. Two opposite minds inhabiting one chaotic body. Nulgath never really cared about Xing and Shang. They were just a means to an end. Traveling back to our world, in the middle of the forest beside Swordhaven, we battle the Chaos Harpy, whose poison needs to be counteracted with the Shriekward potion brewed by Alina. Right after is the battle against Chaos Lord Qiang, who has quite the strange mechanics. Xiang will switch between attacking and healing the player until the Shang part takes over, blessing us with 10 times as much health, but turning off our natural mana regeneration. She'll try to heal us, but Xing will take over for the last part of the fight, stopping Shang and doing massive damage. Defeating them, we show Xiang mercy, appealing to Shang to do good and to Xing to take revenge on Nulgath for betraying her. She can be a Chaos Lord in the right way, and not the form Nulgath has twisted them into. An agent of both good and evil, because that's the true nature of chaos as an element. This story was on the shorter side for one of the final storylines, but I don't think the Mirror Realm has much to offer compared to the regular world, so I think it's for the better. The second birthday event was great fan service, and it was inevitable that it would return to resolve the Chaos Twins, but in terms of telling a good story narrative, it didn't really do anything special and just repeated a lot of beats from the birthday event. It's a lot of, ooh, it's the guy. Wow, he's totally opposite now. Like, yeah, we get it, the bad guys are good now, but how about some actual character development? It may seem harsh, but I'm giving this storyline a C tier. It's fun, but it also creates a whole can of worms with internal logic and consistency between who can switch and how. Looking at the map of lore, there's one far-off island that we haven't explored yet. Taking the Viking ship in the Lolosia seaport, we travel to the island of Phocia, home to the cult of the Femme Fatalities, an all-female cult that only rarely invites men over for the purpose of work. Speaking with the locals, they only chant a mantra back at us: Dage hath no fury, like a woman scorned. Talking with their leader, it appears that they worship the frozen flame at the heart of their village. She explains that there once was a power-hungry king who sought strength by any dark arts. He had a beautiful wife who he would grow more distant to, as he lost all resemblance of his humanity. Devastated by the heartbreak, her body and mind would shatter, only leaving behind her fiery soul. That king was named Dage, as in Dage the Evil, and that soul is said to be encased in the ice to quell its fury. The cult believes that the frozen flame will protect them from any harm. Unfortunately, that time is right about now, as the rumbling of the volcano is a sign of imminent doom. Being doubtful of their ways, we try and help the cult by gathering powerful conduits of frost and fire to stabilize the flowing magma. Seeing no alternatives, we steal the frozen flame with the intention of chucking it in the volcano, as it might be enough to cool it down. Battling the cult leader and throwing the religious object down there, we get more than we bargained for, as the entire island gets covered in a thick layer of ice, as the spirit held within is freed. The spirit takes flight towards the underworld where Dage is located, and we give chase. Traveling the long way through the Greek-inspired layers of hell, we set foot in the Underrealm as two legendary figures appears in front of us. And depending on the gender of your character, only one will wish to speak with you. We have to overcome the 9 guilty joys, like a boss rush, who all have some strange otherworldly designs. Next, we must sail the river of Styx, guided by the boatman Charon. Battling the ravaging souls as we hit checkpoints along the islands littered throughout, including a massive Styx Hydra where we need to climb on its body to cut off its heads, we eventually reach the gates of Elysium, where Dage's guard dog, Cerberus, waits for us. Entering Elysium proper, we see the soul of the woman scorned disrupt the blissful afterlife of the deceased heroes, requiring us to calm down the souls before facing our ultimate test to gain admittance to Dage's fortress. Apparently, being a member of the Legion isn't enough, as we need to prove to the judges of the underworld, Radamanthus, Minos, and Asus, that our allegiance is absolute by battling them and their increasing difficulty, as they can increase their crit chance, evasion, and defenses, making them absolute monsters to fight solo. We gain their approval, but as we travel through the gateway, we are blocked. We may be eligible to enter, but first, we'll need to go through the underworld's judicial waiting system. In perhaps a few years, our case will be reviewed and approved. Another loss for Anarchy and the end. So we lie down and wait, and this highlights a real problem with the basic structure of the release schedule. It's great to get new content every week, but you might be left waiting for quite a bit for a specific storyline to conclude. This has always been a problem. Having the Chaos Saga be the overarching story, it needs to be developed a few times each year to keep the player base engaged in the narrative. But the other ambitious storylines get left to the wayside. The Nythera, Skyguard and J6 sagas were created over multiple years, with a new map only getting added annually. This creates a massive whiplash in terms of quality, going from zone to zone as the developers got more resources in between. If we look at Etherstorm, it was all done within a short time and was very consistent. The slow release schedule might be a result of the sagas being a passion project by specific staff members. Usually, the staff takes turns directing the smaller releases as to not be spread too thin, and you can definitely tell by some of the design quirks as to who directed which releases, if you know what to look for. But this doesn't excuse the poor execution. We had to wait 1.5 years to get the conclusion to this saga. To put that into perspective, the Chaos Saga had already ended by that time. And spoiler alert, the ending of this saga acts as a prequel to a whole new saga, so it's really unsatisfying. Being done waiting, let's enter Dage's Dark Fortress and finally recover the Soul Scorn, which has taken control of the Undead Legion. Searching the halls and deciphering runic keys, we battle another Cerberus godlike dog, which houses Scorn. We meet up with Dage and discuss what to do with Scorn. Dage feels no nostalgia and wants to turn her soul into a glorious warrior. But the soul apparently escapes, and armed with the knowledge of Dage's Legion, finds its way to a mysterious figure who knows a thing or two about betrayal from Dage. She's a previous companion of Lakin, the cyborg general of Dage before he joined the Legion. And this would be the intro to the following Dage story of Dage versus the Seraphs. But that is well beyond the scope of this video. Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. I think this story sucks ass, dude. I don't know, there's just not a lot happening. I love the art. The River of Styx looks awesome. The Underrealm has this disturbing, graceful atmosphere to it. And Phocia's tropical setting is done really well, along with the frost and fire equipment. But man, the story is just so arbitrary. It feels so disconnected from all the other stories involving Dage, basically feeling like a retcon, and it goes nowhere. D tier, just D tier. As we approach the end, we have one loose plot thread that has been hanging on for quite a while. It's no secret that Altion is getting worse. He says so himself, and as the king bleeds, so does his city. Rumors are starting to spread, and as chaos seeps from the once noble king, he becomes the root of the problem. Just how much longer can the man who stood stoically as his wife passed, leaving him the lone father of 3, hold on before he gives in? He knows he won't see the end of the war with chaos, but he has faith in us as a hero to fight tooth and nail, in Gravelin to keep the alliance after his demise, and in his daughters to rule the city with grace. As we explore the sewers that rot with chaos and pacify the escaped convicts that have found strength in the spreading madness, the scent of chaos attracts Drakarth's armies, and as they lay siege, Swordhaven bands together to fend off the attackers. Perhaps the city can manage to live with the chaos, as long as their symbol of hope lives on in the king and the newer generation, like Lord Brenton of the Neverglades, childhood friend of Altion's heirs. There once was a tournament held to find a suitable suitor for Princess Brittany, with many knights of demonic strength and dishonorable intentions being vanquished by Brenton's genuine love for Brittany as a person, even besting us. As the darkest days of Swordhaven approaches, Brenton knows the perfect way to lighten up the spirits of the people. With the blessing of Altion days prior, he finally proposes to Brittany. But Altion can't fight it anymore. he succumbs physically, but not mentally yet. Though his new form be grotesque and reminiscent of the previous monstrous tyrant who ruled before him, he will need to hold it out for the wedding, muttering to himself and seeing the world as if looking through the eyes of chaos growing from him. He simply must hold. Inviting everyone and decorating the city, the stage is set for the grand royal wedding to occur, and there has never not been a wedding with piles of wrapping paper, broken mugs on the ground, and dragons roaring triumphantly. And even with chaotic party crashers left and right, nothing is going to stop this wedding from being completed. The 12th Lord of Chaos is here, and at the worst possible time, but us, Brittany and Brenton, are prepared to do what must be done. And after a cute homage to the tutorial battle with Princess Tara, equipped with a corrupted dragon control ring, we find out that Altion is prepared to do his duty to Drakhav too. Killing what he loved the most was the key to awakening the Chaos Beast, the statue of Swordhaven made manifest. And as the dragon wakes, the city burns. Altion, still conscious of his actions but unable to fight, weeps as he returns to his empty and barren throne room, waiting for us to come. Prioritizing killing the Chaos Beast first, which might be the single laggiest enemy in the game with its multiple heads and gratuitously detailed body, the roof crumbles beneath us, right into the throne room. We try to plead with Altion not to kill him, to find another way. Perhaps there's more Tears of the Mother out there, but Altion assures us that now is not the time for bargaining. He wants to watch his glorious city one last time before our inevitable battle, so he asks us to meet him outside the walls where we once first stood, ready to take part in the invasion of the prologue. Walking out in the city, it's charred, as streaks of fire litter the roads and the earth is cracking in on itself. This destruction of Swordhaven will actually carry over whenever you visit the regular Swordhaven map, leaving a permanent mark that shows that your actions impact the world. But this begs the question, is something lost with these changes? Of course, it's cool that Swordhaven reflects the state it is in at the time of the story, but if I ever want to visit the old Swordhaven, I wouldn't be able to. It really is a small complaint, but I think AE knows this and is doing better to try and not cut content out of the game, so to speak. While gathering footage and writing this script, they released an updated Swordhaven map that would override the destroyed Swordhaven to reflect its current state. And as a bonus, the update also included the original Swordhaven map, now dubbed Swordhaven Classic. And I think this was handled perfectly. But that's just the maps. What about all the cool equipment that goes unavailable? While just being cosmetic, it is content in a way. But there is two ways to get rare items from AE's vaults. The Wheel of Doom, a location where members or people with ACs can spin the wheel with a chance to get items from the loot pool, consisting of exclusive items, but most importantly, old rare items. Naval commanders, star swords, non-member versions of member-exclusive gear, and so much more, with the ultimate prize being the 0.1% chance of receiving the item of donated awesomeness, which would qualify you to receive an item free of choice, within the bounds of no items promised to be exclusive from out-of-game purchases. Imagine getting that item. With so many choices, could you really trust yourself to make that kind of decision? Well, I was lucky enough to make that decision, believe it or not. I wish I had been recording it along with my reaction. We find Altion and confront him for the last time. Being able to convert our attacks against us, he provides quite the challenge for the uninitiated, unless you deliberately charge him up with the intention of countering it back at him. He proves to overwhelm us, and just as he prepares to strike us down, the last shred of humanity asks for a quick death. We submit and plunge our weapon into his chest. The people won't forget the man Altion once was, and what chaos did to him. And even if Swordhaven has fallen and the people will claw at the power vacuum left behind, Altion makes us promise to stand against Nulgath no matter what. As we stand in front of our fallen friend, there is only one path left, into the heart of chaos. First of all, I want to say that the drama of this story was done exquisitely. Like the Chaos Twins, it was an inevitability that Altion would rise to be a Chaos Lord, so the story had to find strength in the tragedy of his downfall. And I think they succeeded in selling just how destructive his conversion was, having been holding down the effects of chaos for years. The gameplay around the story was mostly filler, but the siege minigame and the Wedding Isle battle were quite unique, so I think I'll leave it in A tier. Top tier cutscenes, and a good penultimate story for the upcoming finale. With only one Chaos Lord remaining, we are gearing up for the finale, and so was the developers. Half a year passed where we would get a shit ton of smaller releases to keep us entertained, while they prepared to fire on all cylinders for the Summer of Chaos month-long event. So let's go through some of the mini-events I found most memorable. Firstly, we have the celebration of the 5th birthday of AQ Worlds, where we get invited to join BattleCon, a conference for all AE related games, hosted digitally inside of AQ Worlds. We get to battle the line, visit the musical arena, explore the artist alley, where every AE artist would contribute gear in their own style to show off their individuality and just show how many people produce art for the game. We would also visit the vendor booths that would sell gear related to the other AE games as promotion. As for the story, we would continue our exploration of the secret underground lab that we gained access to in the last birthday event. With green screen ninjas, voice recording banshees, and server gremlins running amok, we clean out the unfinished development closet, only to find the brutal Korn, representing a mobile game called Battle Gems that AE was releasing around this time. With him taken care of, we were free to celebrate 5 years of adventures. After that, we would go on the hunt for the 8 elemental orbs to become the Ultra Elemental Warrior. When first released, you had to rank up the Elemental Master reputation, but this was considered too easy and changed a couple of years later, with the requirement now being to rank up 8 different reputations to get all the equipable orb capes. For example, Dwarfhold for the Earth Orb and Thunderforge for the Energy Orb. Collecting them all would give you the Ultra Elemental Warrior class, which was really hype at the time, even if the class ended up being so-so in terms of power level. Next up would be the story inspired by Dragon Fable with Tomix and the Soul Weavers. Tomix in real life was the lead creative / animator for Dragon Fable, but also a beloved contributing artist for AQ Worlds with his iconic Soul Weaver armor design. At the heart of the city of Ravenloft, the Weaver Queen strikes a deal with Nulgath to secure the safety of her children in the upcoming war. The terms? To destroy the heroes of lore. As we team up with Tomix and Riadne, the human arachnomancer, we fight the invasion and eventually confront the queen, who sought only to keep up appearances for Nulgath, to secretly strike a deal with us, because she believes that the safety of her brood lies with us defeating chaos. This event had some insanely cool enemy designs and a really spooky atmosphere. Too bad the reputation class was really bad. Next on the horizon was the Tower of Doom. Traveling with AE artist and monster hunter extraordinaire, Soshi, we breached the inside of the monumental tower, stretching 50 floors above ground and 50 floors below ground, on a quest to recover the Eternity Blade. Slowly traveling up each level, the walls get more damp and a strange growth starts appearing, along with the enemies exponentially getting stronger. The tower is a living organism, and at the top we find its brain, Creel. Traveling below the tower, light slowly fades as a cavernous fungi starts eroding everything, ending with an encounter with a yet to be discovered species that we name Slugbutter. Because of course we do. Dealing thousands of damage with each hit and having a massive health pool, this would be an insane challenge. Killing Slugbutter for good and assuring it has no offspring is probably for the best, but only if it was that simple. And finally, we have the return of the Dragon Plane. When a strange new illness starts spreading among the newborn dragons, the Draviks and Dracomancers seek our help, and we conclude that this must be the work of Desolov from beyond the grave. Drakarth's mount, now going by Desolage, still has a connection to the Dragon Plane, and with his new undead nature creates dragon zombies. We sever his connection and stop his meddling so that he may remain a lowly silent mount for Drakarth. So, this is it. After so many hours, we've reached the finale. No turning back now. In our hubris, we embark on a solo assault on Mount Doomskull before Drakarth can appoint the 13th Lord of Chaos and actualize his goal. Traveling up the mountain and recounting each battle along the way, we reach the top and confront Drakarth. We've got no idea of just what he is capable of. With a casual 5 million health points and a vicious attack cycle, our defeat is inevitable, even for higher level characters. As he holds us by his blade, he does us the honor of telling us who the 13th Lord of Chaos will be before he finishes us off. Maybe Artix? Dage? No. Yes, we have unwillingly become the 13th Chaos Lord, and with this reveal, shock was sent through the community. What now? War, of course. The Summer of Chaos would be the biggest war event AQW Worlds has seen up to this point, with a full-on invasion of multiple zones, where the heroes who've caught up with the story would try to take over the world, while other players would try to push back against it. The familiar zones would dynamically shift as the war meters became filled. Real player names would be sampled for the NPCs that would award war medals. As the Lord of Chaos, we would also get access to a unique class matching our chosen type of Chaos Lord, which would evolve as we conquered more zones and change other equipment to realize our full potential. Our first city to conquer would be Willow Creek, a fitting introduction to the war. Would the small defenseless low-level map fall to chaos, or would the heroes band together to defend their childhood memories? The war is of course long over, so the revised finale tries to emulate the feeling but falters greatly. So I'll try to recount the struggle for victory as I was actually there to experience it. In the case of Willow Creek, it was a close battle, but chaos won this battle and consumed the town completely. One battle doesn't dictate a war though, but it was a sign of the Alliance's weakening state after Altion's death, with Graveland's army doing most of the heavy lifting. Next, we travel to Doomwood, with the Alliance trying to defend the Lightguard Keep passageway. If Chaos were to win, it would greatly damage the Alliance, and give the Chaos Lord class a new passive buff, and that made Doomwood stand no chance, because players just love overpowered classes. Another map conquered. Next up would be Darkovia Forest. With our Agents of Chaos, we would sow the seeds of doubt between the vampires and Lycans to make them untrustworthy of each other yet again, even at the time of their collective greatest peril. With our plan to kill the vampire queen Zephyria, the vampiric powers that keep her subjects transformed would cease, almost wiping out the entire vampire race on Law. The Alliance has something serious and permanent to lose here, so they'd really have to make up for their piss-poor performance, and of course, they would fail miserably. Dim the rules. As a bonus release for members, let's pretend for a minute that we aren't a genocidal Chaos Lord, and that we are a hero fighting for the Alliance. Then, we would travel with Warlick to the Northlands to track down Zan, who's reportedly been seen up there, along with the forces of Chaos. Securing that Zan won't become a corrupted pawn and that he might even help us with his insane way of reasoning, we would gain an invaluable asset. We find San hiding in Aisha's lair, paranoid and scared. We convince him to fight against the purple people eaters, as he puts it, but as we try to remove his ring, we realize that the corruption has affected the ring's inversion, so instead of weakening fire powers, it magnifies ice powers, which San has already mastered. Giving San the choice of what powers to keep, he demonstrates just what he is capable of with his new ice magic. Warlick is happy to fight on the same side with San once again, if only for a short time. Back to the Chaos Lord shenanigans. It's time for us to summon our Chaos Beasts, and we know exactly how to do it. The Mirror World's Drakkarth knows of our conversion and has decided to forego the balance and separate the Celestial Egg's connection to us, hiding it in our world somewhere so that we may not abuse its powers. Unfortunately, we find out that it is located at Vasselkar's lair. The Alliance will need to keep us out of the den, no matter what. If they don't, the 13th rune will shine and whatever is beyond the gate will begin to be released. This battle wasn't a mere race though, it was a tug of war for total domination. But the Alliance just can't pull their own weight, and we release our beast from the egg as a conduit. The eternal Dragon of Time is at our side to command, and with it, we gain godlike powers over time itself, even giving us the power to raise all the previous Chaos Beasts, which is represented through a gauntlet victory lap to fight each beast once again. Nothing can stop us now, as we embark on battle on, but not before declaring that our power has grown beyond the scope of Drakkarth, and that he'll be next on the chopping block. I won't sugarcoat it. Battle on folded like an omelette, and as we pick up the last intact stone of the towns that once was as a memento, we travel back to Mount Doomskull to pay Drakkarth a visit. Surprised that we've unlocked our powers, he laughs as we haven't yet realized what's really going on. We might think that it's our Chaos Beasts that's giving us these godlike powers, but that's not true. We've had this power all along, we just didn't know it yet. The beast wasn't the one burning Battle to a crisp. That was all our doing, because we're the eternal Dragon of Time. What we saw was just a mental projection, because we couldn't handle the truth yet. That's why the universe seems to revolve around us. That's why Ayadoa couldn't reveal our destiny. That's why death keeps reviving us. That's why our mirror version was a celestial egg. It's all coming together, as we assume our true form that was once disrupted by Galanoth. But as we regain our omnipotence, we realize what will happen if the Queen of Monsters escapes her prison, and Drakkarth doesn't hesitate. Before killing us, he recounts the story of how he came into the service of chaos. Before the young Alden would overthrow his father, he would invite Drakkarth to witness the dark rituals of power. As he watched men take their own lives as a sacrifice, Drakkarth was adorned with a strange amulet around his neck, as his father was maimed. Drakkarth escaped into the woods and started the Dark Wolf bandits to take back the throne. We revisit the conclusion of the first Dragon Fable book again, with Drakkarth betraying Sepulture and absorbing the orbs and fusing with Fluffy to become a dragon. But now we find out what happened after he was defeated. As he bled out on the floor, he grasped the amulet given by his father, and like the behemoth from Berserk, awakening at our deepest moments of despair, the centerpiece of the amulet stared back at him, blinking, as the beautiful voice of a woman invaded his thoughts. In exchange for endless power, all she asked was for her to be freed. Drakkarth accepted and asked how to free her, but as the pure essence of chaos replaced every particle of his being, the Queen of Monsters just laughed maniacally without giving any instructions. And so Drakath wandered the world for years, gaining knowledge and power until he finally found the Chaos Gate. But storytime is over. Now we die. Having our essence destroyed like sepulture, death comes to collect our soul, and this time we won't be respawning. With news of our death and the Chaos Gate beginning to flood the world, our only hope is Gravelyn and the remaining heroes of Battleon. Adorned with her new armor, Gravelyn has a plan. The Draco Lich fortress must rise once again. Meanwhile, in the underworld, we travel the endless plains in search of a way out, as Dage helps Gravelyn prepare the Darkcasters to reanimate the broken foundation of the Flying Castle. With the Chaos Army approaching, every ally with the slightest magical affinity helps raise the fortress, but it just isn't enough. If only we were there to help, but as if our thoughts made manifest, a solution appears. A familiar face appears in the underworld to help us. A vision of Nulgath, still trapped in the Oversoul, appears. With the power of the Archfiend, he manifests a contract, which if signed, will send us back to the world of the living, but at the price of our next death, making us cease to exist. From the underworld, we give the push needed, and the Draco Lich fortress takes flight again. With Gravelyn having been helped, Nulgath confirms that our contract isn't over yet. We should have read the fine print. Per the terms of the contract, Nulgath also issued a hit on death, and if we don't want to get obliterated, we better get to it. We know from the zombies timeline just what happens if death is killed, but we have an idea that just might work. While we battle death, the fortress charges towards Mount Doomskull as Drakath's army of corrupted dragons engage. The fortress can't take much more, but that's when the Fearless arrives, with Stratos' new Skyguard and the heroes of Battleon on board. Gravelyn decides to ram the fortress into Drakath. As Gravelyn hangs on the edge, we manage to kill death with our newly awakened powers over time. There needs to be a death to guide the fallen souls to the underworld, but we also know that death is merely a title, as we were once death for a day. So we absorb death's essence and take over his position, becoming the new Grim Reaper. Breaking out of the underworld, we watch as lore is tearing itself to shreds. But with the power of the Eternal Dragon of Time and our new power over death, we take flight, just in time to save Gravelyn. Drakath is becoming tired of defeating us, but each time he does, we just come back with the power needed to confront him again, and this time, we've got what it takes to challenge him properly. Hopping from island to island, we face Drakath, crippling one of his wings. He makes a tactical retreat on Desolate. Whatever minions he throws at us won't slow us down, as our allies have our backs, be that the Skyguard or the return of Sally with more skulls. Throwing Drakath off the mountain, he becomes desperate. He plans to enter the Chaos Realm, but for him to pass through, he'll need to kill the remaining Chaos Lords that are still alive. Poor Cassandra and Frog Cherion. As the gate readies to allow him access, Drakath's attunement with Chaos becomes too great for him to bear, and he physically begins to start falling apart. Gravelyn joins our battle, awakening her light powers, but as we take a heavy hit and fall unconscious, careening to our doom, Gravelyn needs to decide if she values stopping Drakath from entering the portal and achieving her ultimate goal of revenge, or if our life is more important than that. You already know where her heart is at, so the choice is obvious. As Drakath enters the gateway, he lets out an agonizing scream. It seems like the Chaos Realm drained him of all his strength, explaining why the Queen of Monsters was imprisoned there. If we went to finish him off, we'd have to go through the same process and lose all of our newfound powers. Artix and Gravelyn give us their share of elemental powers, so that we might just have enough time to finish Drakath off before we lose it all. But in any case, entering that portal will render us a regular person once again. We gladly accept the consequences and travel inside. Inside the Chaos Realm, the manifestation of the 13 Lords of Chaos appear before us, and we engage in one last nostalgic gauntlet against them, revealing the significance of why the Lords were chosen. When the Queen of Monsters was first imprisoned, it was done by 13 heroes of balance and 13 beasts of myth. Those heroes would pass away, but their characteristics would get reincarnated. For the Queen to be released, she would need to corrupt those heroes so that they may release the runes imprisoning her. Defeating all the corrupted manifestations, including ourselves, we face Nulgath one last time. As he lies broken and battered on the floor, the beautiful voice in his head says its final goodbyes. There was never room for him in her world. She finally leaves his head, and after all these years of endless whispers, there's just silence now. Entering the Chaos Realm was a trap. Through the Queen's lies and deceptions, not only did Nulgath voluntarily scar and strip himself of power, but he also needlessly killed any reincarnated hero who might still be able to oppose the Queen. Only summoning the beasts really mattered for her to escape. As time distorts in the Chaos Realm, the short fight might have lasted months in the real world. So we make an escape back to law as quickly as possible. Nulgath, having accepted his defeat by us, lets us go, refusing to be a pawn ever again. Now commanding his last remnant of chaos followers in the way it was always supposed to be used, as a force unbound by any preconceived goal, only living for itself. As the Queen of Monsters rises from the gate, the screen fades to black as the Chaos Saga concludes, with a war-torn law and the major factions spread thin across the board. Just how are we going to defeat the Queen and her ancient titanic monsters? Well, that's a story for another time. So, that was the finale to the Chaos Saga, the culmination of all storylines converging. And what do I think of it? I'm not gonna beat around the bush. This is my favorite storyline. If you play it now, you might not understand why. In its current incarnation, it is kind of underwhelming in a gameplay sense, but if you played it back when it was released, when each week had a crazy new development and we had no idea where the story was going or how they would continue after the Chaos Saga, the hype was unreal. And I don't have it in my heart to put it at any other tier than S. Because this was literally one of the high points of my childhood. My only gripe is that of all the 5 times we fight Nulgath, not once does he have any special mechanics that makes him stand out. If you really want a good Nulgath fight, see the Champion Nulgath Ultra Boss with 20 million HP that has multiple phases and requires a full coordinated team to defeat. But that was released many years after the finale, so it doesn't count. And yeah, that's basically the whole game in a nutshell. When I was a young lad, I loved this game so much, and returning to it for this video has been a lot of fun. But it also highlights how nostalgia may have tainted my memories, because actually playing the game is kind of miserable. At the time, this type of RPG was really innovative, being able to play it in your web browser at any time, and extremely charming with the art style. But as games as a medium has evolved, the gameplay leaves a lot to be desired. Not to throw shade at the staff, this is also the case for World of Warcraft and other RPGs, but for the case of AQ Worlds, the game really plays like it did back in 2008. Interestingly, the game will finally receive a fundamental overhaul in the upcoming months from the release of this video, renamed AQ Worlds Infinity, which looks promising. I'll definitely have to check it out when it's released, but I don't think I'll become addicted like I was back then. So to sum it up, nostalgic game, surprisingly great story, but tedious gameplay. And with that said, this is the end of the retrospective. I hope you enjoyed, even if you didn't watch all of it. Making this video was the result of me wanting to see a video in this retrospective style about the game, which I spent so much time playing in my childhood, but no one had made it yet, so I thought, why don't I just make it? And I hope it lived up to the expectations of looking back at every aspect of the game that makes it so special. This is my first ever video project, so learning how to record footage, write a script, do voice recording and edit was quite the undertaking, requiring 6 months of work from conception to the release of this final part. If you're wondering if I'm gonna make a part 2 to this retrospective series covering the Queen of Monsters saga up to present day, the answer is a big fat no. I'm not in any way qualified to speak on that part of the game, because I simply haven't played it, or experienced it on release. So my hope is that some proper bloke out there who's been playing the game from the Chaos Saga all the way to present day is watching this video and gets inspired to make their own retrospective on the second half of the game's life, so that I may enjoy watching it. If I can do it as a complete novice to video making, so can you, my dear viewer. Once again, I want to thank you for watching and have a great day.